This is me on my way to a true wonder of the world, something that has to be seen to be believed, but also something that you've probably never heard of. I'm currently on a train hurtling through Tunisia on my way to the city of El Jem, which I've been told is home to a magnificent ancient Roman amphitheater. And yes, I didn't know that there was another colosseum here in Africa either until I was planning this trip. By this point, I was just excited to go and see it, but I had no idea just how significant this place would end up being. Not just in the ancient world, but also as a shooting location for movies that you probably have heard of. Pulling into El Jem, anticipation was really building for me, and as I stepped outside of the lovely old station building and started to walk through the city, I almost reached into my pocket to check a map to see where I was supposed to go. Until I noticed that that wouldn't actually be necessary, because no matter what street you go down in this busy town, you can't ignore the fact that you're being watched over by this. Built in the 3rd century, roughly 400 years after the Romans destroyed Carthage and started their own empire across northern Africa, and consisting of 3 stories that you can still walk through, this is the Amphitheater of El Jem, the largest monument ever built by the Romans in Africa, and it had barely opened when it found itself at the centre of a drama that concerned the entire empire. Today though, the contrast between the bustling markets and the stoic Colosseum in front of me is almost too surreal to believe. It can really be seen from above, where aerial photography highlights how this city developed around the imposing ancient structure left behind by the Romans. After trying to let the initial wave of sheer disbelief that I'm actually stood here pass, well, I don't know what to say. How often do you see something like this? Not very often. I spend a minute relaxing outside of it for an espresso with a pretty decent view by anybody's standards, and after politely declining a camel ride a few times and drawing a little bit of attention from local children, it's the most surreal thing, just turning a corner in a bustling city and seeing a huge, well-preserved Colosseum.
You are a YouTuber?
You like YouTube?
What is name your channel?
Tom Thornton.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Have a nice day. Bislama. It was time for me to find out what it's like inside today. The process of buying a ticket, I have to say, is much simpler than the Colosseum in Rome if you've ever been there. No pre-booking, no nonsense, just walk up to the counter, and within a few seconds I was finding out that what it's like inside today is, in a word, unbelievable. Yeah, I guess this is just here. This place once hosted crowds of over 35,000 people, but this morning it was virtually just me wandering around it, which was honestly pretty moving. This is unreal. I've been to historical sites before that are maybe just as impressive as this, but are much more famous and much more busy. When you come somewhere like this with so few people and you can have a moment to yourself wandering around it, actually makes such a huge difference in your ability to, imagine it in its day, imagine it in its heyday, and kind of taste the might and the imposing nature of these buildings and what it must have been like to walk around them. I think it makes it, a bit more tangible when you're not rushed. The construction of this amphitheater enabled the locals to go and watch some good, clean fun. Gladiators killing each other, gladiators killing slaves, people hunting exotic animals, that kind of thing. But the emperor, at the time that it was inaugurated, was actually hugely unpopular. He'd been raising everyone's taxes, and the population across the empire had had enough of him. And the rebellion to overthrow him was actually started right here, in an area of Roman Africa that was previously only famous for its olive oil production. And the whole thing actually almost worked, as they made it as far as crowning a new Roman emperor right here in this amphitheater, who was even genuinely recognised by the Senate over in Rome, who also wanted to see the back of the last guy. After the ceremony here in this very building, he served as Roman emperor for about 3 weeks before ending it all and letting someone else have a go at being emperor for a bit. But the bloodshed here wasn't just limited to gladiatorial contest and nearly not failed rebellions. When you walk around it, it does seem surprisingly well preserved, given that it's almost 2,000 years old, but what really caught my attention was learning that we actually came tantalizingly close to having an even more intact version of this place surviving into the modern era. It was built so late, so close to the decline of Roman prosperity, that it spent far more time being misused as a fortress in various conflicts than it ever spent with Roman nobles walking down these corridors on their way to see a show. Less than 200 years after it opened, barbarians were well and truly at the gates, and the local population used it to shelter against the invading Vandals. Funnily enough, Vandals under the modern definition of the word still seem to be a problem around here, but that's another matter. The land that we now call Tunisia passed between no fewer than 10 other empires and dynasties on its path from being controlled by the Vandals to the Arabs to the Ottomans. That's a lot of invasions and a lot of last stands happening here in this building, which definitely bears the marks to prove it. The side that you can see is most damaged was even eventually deliberately destroyed by one 17th century Ottoman ruler to prevent any potential opponents of his from ever using it as a stronghold again. So this thing has really had a battle on its hands to remain standing. Pretty much the only thing that it's ever had going for it is the fact that the hot, dry air here is much more conducive to preserving the stones that are left in place than the environment in some other Mediterranean countries. But even that enabled a couple more centuries of it being seen as a very convenient quarry from which all of these nicely cut stones could be looted for use in other construction projects, until it finally even suffered more damage at the hands of the Brits and the Germans during the Tunisian campaign of World War II. Truly, the more you read about this place, the more it pops up at dark times in history. It's another story that makes you grateful to have hit the jackpot by living in this tiny slice of time that we exist in right now, where it's actually being actively appreciated and looked after as the beautiful relic that it is, where its status as a World Heritage Site and my entry fee of just a few dollars is hopefully all contributing to the ongoing restoration and conservation projects here, and where our decisions regarding the future of places like this are more guided by the principle of keeping them alive for future generations to come and appreciate than by trying to blow them up. In fact, these days it's more likely that you'll catch a classical music performance in here or see it pop up as a shooting location in Monty Python's Life of Brian than it is that you'll actually be fed to the lions in here yourself. And that's not a bad era to live in, if you ask me. As the day went on and the sun began to get hotter and hotter, I spent some more time sat up in the stands, listening to the call to prayer from a nearby mosque. Thinking about the weight of everything that's happened here and the scars that this magnificent structure still carries from it all. If you want my travel recommendations, it's honestly worth coming to Tunisia just to see this. Slightly smaller than the Colosseum in Rome, but 1,000,000 times less crowded, allowing you to properly take your time to breathe it in peace and quiet. And I honestly count moments like these among the once-in-a-lifetime things that I've been lucky enough to experience. And the same contrast hit me again on the way out. Me walking through the city, all excited that I've just seen the great African Colosseum, and everyone around me who actually lives here just going about their daily life, probably sick and tired of the fact that they have to drive all the way around the great annoying roundabout to get to work. If you'd like to see more from my adventure across Tunisia and learn how you can plan your own trip there, please feel free to subscribe to the channel and watch this video next.